another Straight Talk, and I got my girls Argie and Shannon with me today. How are you ladies doing today?
Wonderful.
Been a
It's
busy week.
Friday.
It's Friday. It has been a crazy busy week for all three of us. We have been going a whole lot of roads, and it's so exciting. And we're so glad to take this time and actually come and hang out with y'all. Um, As always, we're streaming all over the place again. We're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. We're going to be going out on Spotify. So make sure you let us know where you've caught this straight talk. We love to hear where everybody's catching us and let us know if there's any topics or anything that you'd like us to cover. Um, Today, we're going to have a little bit of fun and we're going to talk about what are we really passing down. This one was actually a Nikki idea that came to me because we were joking this weekend, actually this week, about how much of my DNA shows up in my children on some things that maybe I don't want to necessarily say is my DNA, but there's not really any doubt in the matter, right? I mean, we all have those little quirks and we have little things that we pass down to our kids. Some are great, some are not. Um, so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Um, I know I normally make you two ladies start, so I guess I'll take the hit this week and I will give it a go. What brought this on for me is the fact that my son was explaining to me how he was dealing with some people at work. Now he's in construction, so he's taken over that side of mine and his dad's DNA. Um, there was just a couple of people that were just being outright idiots. They weren't really being safe. They were doing things that they really shouldn't be doing. And finally, he just got frustrated and told the guy off. And of course, my husband looked at me and goes, "There's your DNA." And we also had that when my son's in the skid steer and he's trying to pop wheelies. And there's a big conversation on how that in itself shows my DNA as well. We'll leave out the fact that all of our kids are well over 6 feet tall. My husband's 5'7". We'll say he's 5'7". And I'm, over 6 feet. So we've got that fun part of my DNA that's in there too. Um, and I'm just really glad that they found their calling and they found it younger than I did. It has taken me years and years and years to figure out what I really feel called to do. I wish I had figured that out at their age, but I'm kind of glad that that little bit of my DNA got in there earlier on for them. So who wants to go next?
Agreed. Both our children have incredible work ethic, and it's something I feel like we just drilled it into them and drilled it into them. They saw Scott, back then when you worked the rigs, you could be gone 3 to 5, 6 months without returning home. So they learned very quickly that working hard for the money um, was important. And it's almost to a fault. I've seen my daughter burn herself out immensely. I've seen my son burn himself out. My daughter in law, she's part of the fam for sure. My daughter's boyfriend, same work ethic. I'm glad they found partners that can support them, but have also taught them to enjoy some time, like downtime, and enjoy what you're working for, because you have to work for something. And yes, bills, food, all that fun stuff, but you still need to have a fun side, right? Like you need to let your hair down and go out and just have a great time. So, yeah, I'm very proud of all my children because I include the extras as well. And yeah, that's my takeaway.
Well, it's everything in moderation, right? Like we want our kids to learn how to have our work ethic and work hard and contribute to society. But at the same time, we want them to be able to take that time to say, no, I'm important and I need that downtime. I know me personally, I've never done well with that. My children are the very opposite. They've seen from mom burning out over and over and over again, and you know, dad working away from home for, like you said, months at a time. They've learned to they don't really want to repeat that. So, not that they don't work really hard, but they've also mentally made that decision for themselves that, okay, I'm going to work really, really hard, but I'm going to play hard too. And I'm going to take that time because they don't want to go down that road. So, what do you think, Miss RG?
Well, let me clear my throat here. Let's talk about DNA in my line. I have one biological son, and he's so much like his mama. He looks exactly like his daddy. I mean, looks, if looks could kill, that would happen there. But the work ethic, he got that. Um, then there's my brother's nieces, which I claim as my kids too, at a very, very young age with all three of them. And they're all, like little stair steps. My son's the oldest, then the girls come next. So at a young age, I was dragging those kids all over everywhere. Now you have to understand that I'm a country girl at heart. So, and they were country, raised in the country on the ranch. Um, I'm like, but there's more to this world, and I want you to experience that and see that. So every time I got a trip or earned a trip, or I was working for the university and they were sending me somewhere. Like I remember going to Washington D.C. and I took my oldest niece with me. She might have been 7 at the time, maybe 8. Never been on a plane before. I loaded her up, and her mom and dad were standing there going, "Are you sure you can handle this? You're not going to lose my kid in Washington, D.C." I said, "Got it. I got it." Then the next trip came along, and I was still working for the university, but I was also on the executive board for a software company called Autodesk out of California. And they sent me on an Alaska cruise to see if we could do training on a cruise ship. Well, 2 more nieces loaded up and went on a cruise. Now we're talking, these 2 girls were 2 years apart, maybe 9 and 11. If those 2 kids did not have the time of their life, and I won't, now that I'm older, I probably shouldn't say this, but it was like a cruise ship for the gray-haired older granny folks, and these 2 girls were the youngest people on this cruise ship. And if they weren't babied and treated like royalty, I mean, the crew took them over. They got to go down on the bottom floor of the cruise ship and see. I mean, I'm like, "Hello, Auntie needs to go too." And they're like, "Sorry, you're not invited." And then, there was the games because they were the only kids on the thing. Well, the crew was playing with them because they didn't have any other kids to play with. I'm like, on what planet does this really happen? And I didn't have to, I didn't have to pay a babysitter. Not that they were, young enough to have babysitters, but you could lose a kid on a cruise ship. I could have lost both of them. But no, if I did lose them, they were up front with the captain. I mean, they got to go up there where they were driving the boat thing. I'm like, for goodness sakes. So to say that those kids got my travel bug DNA, yeah, they got it. And I often tell people that Josh and I have hunted everything in the world except rattlesnakes and kangaroos. And there's a little bitty line that goes underneath that statement. We are never going to hunt rattlesnakes, even though that happens here in the lovely state of Oklahoma. Kangaroos, yeah, that would require us going to Australia. And we've kind of talked about that. I mean, it's not too late for this 70-year-old something to go hunt a kangaroo, but the rattlesnakes, that is off the list. And I kind of think Josh is okay with that too. So, you know, so there you go. That's how part of my DNA has rubbed off on my children. Only part of it. There's more, but
Mhm. Well, I find it interesting how we have like our actual DNA, right? Children, our own children, and then there's the bonus children,
mhm.
right? We call them our nieces, we call them our nephews. Maybe they're our children's friends that they grew up with. And I find it fascinating how just being around us and we're able to give that little bit of ourselves and improve their life, right? Instill those traits and morals and that sort of thing that we believe in to the younger generation. Again, whether they actually have our DNA or if they just make people go, "Are you sure you weren't like related
Mm, some
somehow?
somewhere. Yeah.
Is there something going on in that tree we don't know about?" You know, I've got a couple. I mean, we actually it's been a long time joke with me and my eldest niece um that she's the mini me. Um she's very much a mini me. And we were reminded of that last year when we were talking for a while there. We had some family stuff going on and her and I kind of really reconnected. Um and it was funny because I mean there's only I think there's 10 years, not even 9.5 years between her and I because my sister is quite a bit older than me. Um, and people are like, "Are you sure like that's not the mom? Because you are so much like like your auntie. You got the attitude, you got the drive, you know, she's wanting to she's going to get her class 1, she's going to become a truck driver, so she's got that big tough I'm done being a girly girl, which is what her job has been for many, many years now. And she's like, "Auntie, I just want to go drive truck." You know, she's like, "I remember when you put me in that semi," and I'm like, "Hey, hey, hey, we don't discuss that. We that does not need to get out." I mean, now it's everywhere. But, it was one of those things that this was something we just don't talk about. You can't come to aunties and auntie can't put you in a semi truck and you start talking to everybody about that. I mean, she's much older now, and it's okay. It's been about probably 20 years. Um, but that's what gave her the drive, and it's one of those memories, those core memories that we talk about a lot, that just made her feel like, okay, I'm ready. And she even told me, she's like, if I hadn't got into that, if you hadn't brought me to the job site and you hadn't given me the opportunity to do that ride along, she's like, I don't know that I'd necessarily really be okay with jumping in this career, but that little bit of, oh, well, if my auntie says it's okay, and if my auntie can do it, then I'm going to give it a go. So, I mean, she's in the middle of a huge career change from a desk job, pretty much. She ran a hotel, to now looking at running, running semis, you know? Um, So yeah, there's a few times that I sit back and go, "Oh yeah, there's my DNA on that one. There's something happened."
So let me talk just a little bit about those bonus children.
Mhm.
At the university, I was the head of the CAD department, computer aided drafting, and my bonus grandson was one of my students. And he was in class with a group of boys, gentlemen, they weren't young boys, um, but all about the same age. And if they, I was not teaching the particular class, but if they had an issue and didn't understand something, or perhaps they didn't understand the instructor, he was a little bit over their head. Jalen, my bonus grandson, would say, "I'll just go ask Grammy." So I could hear him coming down the hall. My office was kind of pretty far away from the classroom, and I could hear him talking. And I can't tell you how many times each one of those, and I'm going to say there was about 8 of them, I could hear, "We'll just go ask Grammy." So I became Grammy to all these guys. And as it turned out, 5 of the 8 work together at a local industry now. And I still get, "Well, let's just call Grammy." Now, I haven't taught CAD for a long time. I've been teaching leadership for several years. But, oh, Grammy will know what to do. So, I'm sitting here at home, maybe on a podcast, and I get a call from the bonus children. And by the way, that's not just those 5 or 8. They are spread all over the world, and I still get students that reach out to me. So, yeah, I claim them all. I can't really say that's me passing my direct DNA on to them, but I guess I've had a lot of influence on a lot of students over the 45 years that I've been in education.
Well, and it's part of your legacy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Shannon, you're muted.
Yes, sorry, Loki was whining for a little bit, so I
No,
muted
great.
myself. Yes, I was just going to say that. That's part of your legacy is sharing that knowledge and having them come back to you, which is just an incredible thing.
It's a wonderful
I
feeling.
feel proud.
Yeah. I did take a group of students. This has been about 15 years ago. I, along with 2 or 3 of my other faculty members, we took a group of students down to Lima, Peru, and we did a map of a National Geographic dig site. And, while we were there, we did the Machu Picchu. We just did a whole bunch of other things. But the big project was mapping this Juana Pucana National Geographic dig site. And I think there was 21 or 22 of us total on that trip. That was an earth-shattering, um, amazing project that will never be forgotten by those 22 people, myself included. And to know that we were mapping the remains of the local people that were over 2,000 years old, and we were able to find several of the grave sites that they didn't know existed, and that it was documented in the National Geographic. Just that was my DNA rubbing off. And oh my gosh, what a trip. And every one of them are still talking about that one. Like, when are we going to go back? And I'm like, oh, are you kidding? I'm too old to do that now. Y'all need to step up and take your own group with you now. But yeah, I have lots of trips like that where I have my travel DNA has worn off, not only just on my kids and my nieces, but on my students. So it's been a fun ride, and it's not over yet because I'm going to drag y'all to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. So you might as well get ready.
Yeah, that's a next year thing. We just got to get the dates going. Well, and I find it interesting how, like, okay, there's our DNA, and like I said, I mean, it reaches people that are directly connected to us, but it's also how we're able to share pieces of ourself, maybe not our DNA, but pieces of ourself with other people. Um, whether they're our age, whether they're younger, they're older, that sort of thing. we're able to just share and give um, people around us different things to look forward to. You
Mhm.
know, that's another big thing is we don't have children with the thought of you're on your own. I don't want to leave you nothing. You're on your own, figure it out. You know, we always come in and we have these children, we want them to have more and better than we ever did. And it's something that we strive for, right? That doesn't mean that they're going to have an easy life or that we're going to have an easy life or anything like that, but that's what we strive for. And I think the real measure is when you're able to do that beyond your children, beyond your direct circle, and you're able to impact people all over the world like you've done, RG. I mean, you've had students from all over and you've been able to, share your wisdom and your knowledge and that travel bug that you like to pass on to people. You've been able to do that all over the world. And like with Shannon's working on, can I say what you're working on with your tables and stuff? So Shannon, she's got some trade shows coming up, and she's going to be actually taking a lot of her t-shirts and all kinds of things that she's been creating, bookmarks, and I've been getting some sneak peeks at some other stuff too that I'm really, really excited on. you know, and she's able to share her creativity with a wider and broader audience. All three of us come from a place where we come from our heart and we want to share, whether that's our knowledge, it's our DNA, or it's just the little things that liven us up and keep us going. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we started this podcast and these lives. So we just want to give and we want to share with others and empower others, uplift other people, and we do it in every aspect of our life. We do it from the heart. We don't necessarily do it from the wallet because let's face it, a lot of times we've invested way more than we'd ever get back. But the reality is we do it because we love it. And all three of us really want to leave a legacy in our own way,
Mhm.
right? I mean, we have you got three different ladies here with three different goals and we have three different businesses, but at the end of the day we come together because we want to leave something for future generations and not just our children. We're here because we want to reach a much broader audience and, leave that legacy that's lifelong. I know my idea of a legacy isn't how much money's in my bank account when I leave. It's how many lives I've changed and how many lives that I've changed are in a position to change other people's lives you know, and I don't want people to remember me for, glitz and glam. Not that I'm glamorous, um, but that's not why I want what I want people to remember me by. I want people to remember me by my heart and what I gave back and what I've done for others and that sort of thing. And that's one of the, yeah, okay, yeah, that's one of the parts of my DNA that I'm really hoping to pass on to my children. It's It's that heart. It's that ability that when, someone's having a tough time, you step up in whatever way you can, you know, if and passing that on again to future generations and not just to my DNA. I want to pass that on to a broader audience.
And the thing I think there's a lots of things that I would love to share, but I have to stand up so you can see my T-shirt. It says, "Be kind," and I wore it today for a very specific reason. That's kind of my motto in my life is to be kind. It doesn't cost you a thing to be kind. But yet that one little act of kindness might stop someone from committing suicide or make all the difference in the world. And this smile, it's not the prettiest, but you'll see it a lot because that's spreading kindness. And, I'll go to my grave telling the world, just be kind. Doesn't cost you a thing.
And it can make such a huge difference in someone's life.
The little things, the little
It really
bitty things. Yeah.
absolutely.
When you talk about travel, one of the best family trips that we went on, so a little bit of a backstory. My family has been going to a campground in Idaho for, oh goodness, it's got to be 69 years now. And there was a group of people that would go down with my grandparents, and we grew up with that extended family and group, and they all still go to this day. And I remember, so there was a break, obviously, you know, things happen with family. I don't have the greatest history with my family, and we had some time apart in the States as my aunt, my cousins, stuff like that. And the best trip was taking my kids there for the first time, because it is just such a magical place, and you can just literally, you drive over this bridge that's over the water, and as soon as you hit that spot, you know you're there, and relaxation, holiday mode sets in. And I'm happy to say they all love it. They still want to go back there. They want to carry on the tradition, which is amazing. And we can fill the campground. Like, you think about how many generations of people going, and, their children's children, and it, our dogs, actually, we go for a walk every evening, and they get pretty ticked at us because we literally go campsite to campsite and see someone else we know and stop and talk to them, and the dogs are like, oh, come on, can we like go for a walk already? But yeah, it's just, little moments like that, and sharing where I grew up, spending my childhood every summer. It was just such an awesome feeling, and the fact that they loved it as much as I did too. Sadly, the latest fire hit the campground, so
Oh
this
no.
is the second one. I don't know. I haven't been back since the first fire, so I don't know how it'll be, but yeah, it's sad.
So I have a favorite story to tell. Well, y'all know me too well. I have lots of favorite stories. But this one was when I was a child, and my favorite place and our family favorite place was Papa and Granny's house down on the ranch. So after church, we'd all gather at Granny's house because she always had dinner ready for us when we got back from church. We would stop by our house, change clothes, get in our play clothes, take the church clothes off, and then right straight to Gran's we would go. And so it wasn't just the little small circle of family because my daddy was an only child, but it wasn't very long until all the aunts and the uncles and the cousins started showing up. And for some reason, Granny knew just how much food to cook because there was always a bunch of us just, passing through the kitchen, smelling the cornbread and whatever else, she decided to fix that day. But my favorite memory was once the meal was over, the main dinner and the dessert, the ladies would all be in the kitchen or cleaning, and you could just hear the laughs and the giggles and the stories they were telling. And then outside, weather dependent, the guys were all under the apple tree that was out in the yard. They were dipping and spitting snuff, sweet Garrett snuff. And that was their after dinner delight, whatever. And me, there'd be cousins running everywhere, throwing rocks, hide and seek, whatever. I would get on my papa's front porch in the swing, kind of seat down and hide. So I was in that very special spot. I could hear the stories that the men were telling, and then I could also hear the stories that were going on in the kitchen. Oh, you talk about some DNA and some legacy coming out. Whoo, to this day, how I miss that. Now, Nikki's Nikki's been there. She knows about that porch swing.
Nikki helped with the porch
Yeah.
swing.
But I don't know, Nikki, if you knew until I told that story how important that porch swing was to me. But
No,
my husband's going to recreate the porch swing just for me. Now I don't know where I'm going to hang it, but it may
yeah.
be hanging in the bedroom, swinging from the joist in the ceilings. But
Hey, that's a different podcast.
it's a different story. Yeah, and we might not should even talk about that. But anyway, Nikki and I have touched the famous porch swing, although it was kind of falling apart, but we did it.
We
So
salvaged most of it. We salvaged most of it.
we've got enough that Bobby can have a pattern, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's those little things that y'all don't know about me. The rocks that I've thrown, the buildings I've climbed up, the trees I went up, and Papa had to come up the tree and get me because I'm afraid of heights. Now, what the heck was I doing in that tree? Picking mulberries. Come on. So here I am with purple juice all around my mouth, and then I start crying because I realize, oh my God, I got to get out of this tree. So I start yelling for Papa, and here he comes. Yeah, he climbs up the tree and helps me down. So, oh, the stories that I can tell.
Yeah. Well, we used to so up in Cold Lake here. There's a campground that we used to go to quite a bit when I was a kid, and I loved it because we could go fishing, and we always seemed to get one of two spots too. And I don't know if it was because my mom was there the night before or my dad was there the night before the weekend to make sure that we got it. I vaguely remember somebody being there to get us the really big site, you know, but I remember the beach and I remember sitting by the water and, fishing with my dad and playing games and we were always by the park, so, my younger sisters were always at the park and I'd be out picking blueberries and saskatoons and whatever I could get my hands on. Um but I miss those camping days. We did it a little bit when the kids were little, but it was very difficult because my husband, again, very seasonal, and when there's work, you work, right? So we were very blessed a lot of times, and when he was working and living in one of our RVs, me and the kids would just pack up and we go hang out with dad for the week. Sometimes that meant we were parked on the side of a highway in a not a very fun RV park. Other times we were in an RV park that would have like a mini golf, or we were at the lake, or whatever. Sometimes we were in a hotel room. I mean, the one time the boys were really little, and Bob was working out by Drumheller. Um, so we were able to take the kids to the Dino Museum, and I mean, we had three boys. What's more fun than getting three boys in a Dino Museum? I mean, Jay wasn't really even walking at that stage, so I'm not sure he remembers it. Um, it was a great time, and it's those memories that I hope that they as well found sweet and held on to. Um, but again, it comes down to your legacy, right? I think legacy is more memories and
Mhm.
the memories you instill in other people. Um, of course, not all memories are good. I mean, we've all had memories of, things we don't want to remember. But the reality is that's just part of life, right? And we got to learn to take the good with the bad, just like the good DNA we pass on, and maybe the not so good DNA. I mean, my children could use a little less of my attitude, just a little bit. They could use a little less of my snark, probably use a little bit less of my lead foot, and I'm sure there's a few other things that they could have lived without. Um, but we got to celebrate the good ones. And I think that's one thing that we really need to in this world is we need to celebrate the good, even if it's just the little things, and have fun with ourselves. Because if we're not, then what are we really passing on, right? If we're stuck in negativity all the time and all the bad things, you're not really passing on anything worth passing on. So I think if we all just take, even if it's once a week, take a moment and just celebrate the wins. Whether it's a little win, I made my bed every day this week, you know, I got my kids out of bed for school on time, all those little things. Find one win and celebrate it because that can be part of your legacy. And if that's something you want to pass on to your kids, then make it a focus because a lot of this stuff is learned behavior and it's modeled behavior, you know. And, RG showed how many thousands of kids over the years how to, really be kind and be kind in everything you've done. Shannon's passed on hard work and creativity to all her children and a love of animals and care and all those things, and I've passed on, my husband and we've passed on that hard work gene to our kids as well, but I've also passed on a little bit of snark. So I'm just going to celebrate the fact that my kids won't be as much a pushover as I was because they got a little bonus.
But here's something I want to throw in too. We're sitting here talking about these stories, and I'm quite a bit older than you two ladies, and I guarantee you that if you don't tell your own stories, and this is with something that I spoke on the Women Thrive speaker showcase this week, I talked about um, at some point people are going to gather around your table, and it could be a holiday or it could be your memorial, and they're going to be talking about you, telling stories about you. Well, don't you want them to tell the good stories about you? And don't you want them to get the facts correct? So before it's too late, maybe write down, or since we live in a digital age, go ahead and make a recording of these stories, you talking and telling the stories, because those are the things that your great grandchildren will never know about you, probably never know. If they do find out about it, they might get the twisted truth, and you want them to have the real truth. So I guess that's what my passion is, helping women tell those stories. Don't be afraid to tell them. The good, the bad, and the ugly, we all have them, because that's um, how we got where we are today. And that's part of legacy. So don't let that piece slip by. Like Nikki said, it's not about the money, it's not about the jewelry, it's not about the stuff. It's about how you live your life today and how you're going to share that with generations to come. There.
When you mention that, I think I've mentioned it before. My daughter got us books. They're tiny little square books, probably about that big. And they have questions in it. In high school, did you do this? What were you like for this? What's a story you can tell? What trouble did you get in? Like, it covers all the bases, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the naughty. But what an amazing thing to leave for your children, right? Like, they just have those stories available at their fingertips. Now, I have to admit, my husband's not great at writing it out, so of course I'm doing his, but they're his stories and his behavior. And I just want to say the naughty gene came from him.
Of course it did.
I said to him, because of course he's out of town all the time, and I was at the school constantly. And I said to him, I blame you because I had to be a perfect child. And I'm not kidding. I had to be a perfect child back then. I lived with my grandparents. You know, we haven't gone into it, but my father was abusive and everything. So I had to be the perfect child. I paid for everything my husband did as a child and caused pain to his mom and everything. I paid for all of that. Let me tell you, his genetics are very strong in both our children. They came out in different ways. But those stories are priceless. So share them, all of them.
Yes, absolutely. I was just thinking that when Nikki was down here visiting, we went to Miss Laura's bordello. I was starting to say the whorehouse, but I'm trying to be nice here. But that's exactly what it was. And one
Which
of the
we had to
doc,
explain to my husband.
oh, I
Let's
know it was.
let's be clear. We had to explain to my husband what the bordello was, and he's like, "Oh, that's a new line of work that I didn't think you ladies were going to get into while you're out of town."
That was one of the most interesting tours. Now, I've been there many times, okay, but I didn't think I was ever going to get Nikki out of there. But one of the books in there was a ledger from the doctor that took care of the ladies that worked there, and the documentation of they had to go, was it once a week to be checked?
Yeah.
I can't remember,
Yeah, I
but
think it was once a week they had to be tested and checked over
and vaccinations or whatever was going on back in the day. That's anyway. But I'm looking at that going, wow, that's a dang legacy journal right there. Now, I didn't dig deep enough to see if I had any relatives on that list. I don't think I do. But, I'm looking at that going, oh, oops, she was out of commission for a couple of weeks because she had a little infection or, whatever. But, we all have those storybooks that we can tell. It doesn't have to be from the Miss Laura's, you
no.
know. But Nikki, aren't you glad we got to see that? I mean, that was
Oh,
a huge piece of history, and I was just kind of I didn't want to just go as I was reading it, but Nikki
well, and it
probably.
wasn't only that. It's like, and again, we look at the legacy side of it, right? So, I mean, they had different rooms designed for different decades, and these are stories, right? You walked into the room and you could see how things were set up, and you were put into that world. You were put into that time period. And I
Mhm.
think that's one of the reasons why I love history so much, right? Um, but again, if you don't share your history, if you don't share the good, the bad, and the ugly, nobody's going to know, right? People are going to learn different ways. My kids learned that my sass gets me somewhere, and they learned to put a little spin on it to get them a little bit further. They also learned that there's some things their mama did that they just really need to not do, because they're not going to have good end results. you know, but again, had I not been open with my children about my past drug abuse and that sort of thing, I believe it would have shaped them way differently. They probably would have given into peer pressure when it comes to that stuff
Mhm.
um, earlier on. I mean, I'm blessed and my kids didn't. Um, you know, and it's not that I was raised in an environment where that was normal. That was the quota. It wasn't. I was raised in a totally different, but it's something that I did. Um, but again, it's those stories, guys. You have to remember, it doesn't matter whether the story's good or bad, it needs to be shared because either way, there's a lesson to be learned from it. You know, no, RG and I are not opening up a bordello, we
Mhm.
shall call it. We have no intention of opening one up in Canada or the US. It is not on the game plan. Um,
I
however,
could
maybe
create amazing decals and
uniforms, I know, right?
like
I mean,
Sky's the
maybe,
limit.
maybe we just need to straight talk bordello. I don't
I
know.
don't
Maybe
know.
there's something to be said for it.
But
We'll
now
have a flag in the works,
let me just throw this in. One of those rooms upstairs, now there's a time frame in there where that bordello became a high-end restaurant. And this was back when I was single many, many years ago. And I had a date come in, a guy came in from California, and he took me out to eat. And he took me to that room. Oh, that sounded kind of bad, didn't it? Anyway, I got to I got to go to that special room and we were eating expensive steak. And when Nikki and I were
Sure.
on, yeah, I'm serious. There were other people in the room, y'all. Come on. But when we were there doing the tour, I walked in that room and I go, "Oh, I ate at that table right there." And she looked at me and she said, "Our director needs to talk to you because we've been trying to find people to ask about when it was a restaurant because it was only a restaurant for like, I don't know, very short time. But I was lucky enough to have a date that could afford to take me there." See, that kind of sounds bad too. But, Bob's never going to let Nikki come back down here ever again because
Oh my goodness.
we got in a whole bunch of stuff.
We really did. And
And
but it was
then
great.
then I take her to the Marshall's Museum, and John Wayne's parade saddle is there. And if you ever lose her, I mean, the museum's huge, but if I lost her, I knew exactly where she was. So she wasn't
I
there.
would have headed right back there. And it was right by the saloon, so it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect placement.
she
You
was
had a
not
jail
hard.
on one side, saloon on the other, and John Wayne right in the middle. I'm gold.
And I tell her before we get there, I said, "Now there's going to be something special here. There's a lot of things special in that museum, but I said, there's one in particular." And so when we walked through the door, the first thing I did was take her right to that area. And then I'm like, "Okay, you can't stand here for the next 3 hours Google eyeing over this saddle. You have to go see the rest of the museum." But
And I took so many pictures of just that dang saddle because I'm like, ooh, look at that. Ooh, look at that. You know, but again, that's kind of my father's legacy, right? My father's the one that brought John Wayne into my world, and it was something that I used to love watching John Wayne movies with him, and I still to this day love the old westerns. I mean, give me an old western as bad as the, you know, graphics were and the glitchiness. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I will absolutely do a full marathon.
if it's any consolation, my husband has every one of the lines in John Wayne's movies memorized. And I bet he's watched them at least 15 times or more, each one
And
of
he's
them.
got the toilet paper too.
Oh, he's got, you would not believe how many John Wayne things are in my house. John Wayne's hanging over my fireplace. A big, big John Wayne.
I thought you were going to say something else.
As
Oh,
we go from Bordello to John Wayne. All right.
Well, wasn't sure.
You know,
we do have fun, don't we?
absolutely.
Oh,
So, again, we'd like to thank you guys all for joining us this week. Let us know where you're catching us from. If you have any topics you'd like for us to discuss, please reach out. It's a safe space. We don't want to be named. We're happy to keep it between us. Um, we're just really here to put a smile on your face, give you some value, and hope to brighten your, the end of the week. It's Friday, guys. We come here for a reason. We want you to start your weekend off good and bumping on a high. So, you know, hope you all have a fabulous weekend. Let us know what you've done in over the weekend, and maybe even let us know what little bit of DNA that you've passed on. Again, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're all here for it. And yeah, do you guys have anything else you want to say? Oh, yeah, and I did pass on my ear genetics to my child.
oh my goodness.
There's that. But add that to the did not want to pass on.
Oh.
Anything else you guys want to finish us off with? Or we
I'm good. I
Have a
told a
great
good
weekend,
story.
everyone.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.